In way of introduction, um, we appreciate you coming, joining us in this. There is a verse in the Bible which says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that applies to every human being, even those that have disabilities, born with disabilities. Everybody is unique, precious. And so one of the things that we want to emphasize through our wellness workshop is that we want you to discover how unique you are in your own way. So we can talk about principles, which we're going to, but you have to adapt it to your own life. So here you notice that we have a footprint, and it is said that you need like 7 trillion people at the same time living to find another footprint just like this. So this is as unique as fingerprints. And each of us is unique. And that is the point. And then of course we have a foot. And foot is the organ of motion, right? It helps us move around. So movement is very important. And we put first step. And the first step refers to a small change in life. Very often we tend to do too many things and we kind of fail. So a little thing will be helpful. Now, last month, Alicia talked about one of the things that I decided to incorporate, that is to eat fruits. There was something else to just not think about it. But after that, I started eating fruits with every meal, sometimes several varieties of fruit. And I don't know whether it is because of that I haven't lost any weight. But I think it's a good, at least for me, it was a good small change. And then in the very bottom it says, there is a verse from the Bible, it says that you may prosper in all things and be in health. That is our goal. So our goal through our workshop is to give you the tools to help yourself and discover yourself, your own potential. It's not like being anybody else, but being yourself. That is the best you can do for the community. Now we are very happy that we have these medical students from CUSM who are here. I really appreciate the dedication. This is application time. They had exams a couple of weeks ago and still hanging around. So I asked them whether they want to have the class. They said, yeah, we went around, so we have the class. So I'm going to introduce the leader, Niall, and he will introduce his name and then continue from there. So, Niall?
Good morning, everyone. We're all medical students from the California University of Science and Medicine in Colton. It's a pleasure being here this morning. We're all from our family medicine interest group, so we all have interest in family medicine in one regard or another. And as you know, in family medicine, a big aspect of that is kind of addressing the individual as a whole, kind of seeing their personal life, kind of seeing their social life, how all those aspects affect their overall health. I myself am Niall Baig, I'm the president, and then we also have the rest of our board here.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name's Daisy, I'm the treasurer.
I'm Kendall, I'm the vice president.
My name's Alyssa, I'm the secretary.
Yeah, so today we're just going to be kind of going over the 4 aspects of the Blue Zone Triangle. We're kind of going to get into all of that. And we want this to be an interactive session. We want this to be about you guys kind of seeing how you can implement this into your own life. If you guys have any questions, want to share anything, please let us know at any time. We want this to be more of a discussion rather than just a lecture, okay? So, and we are going to have breaks in between, you know, just so you guys can kind of digest what you learned and then maybe go grab something to drink, you know, go take a break. Just kind of make this an enjoyable, relaxing experience for all of you. So we thank you for being here this morning, and we'll get started. We'll pull up our PowerPoint. Okay, so first we want to kind of speak about the kind of the whole concept of a blue zone. And basically, blue zones are regions around the world. There are several around the world where people tend to have a longer life expectancy, but it's not just a longer life expectancy, it's actually a healthier life, a happier life. And I know there's a lot of statistics that say, oh, you know, people are, you know, they're going to have this when they get older. Yeah, people have health issues when they get older, but there are ways to kind of mitigate that, to lessen that happening. And there's a lot of aspects in which you can kind of achieve that healthier lifestyle, especially when you get older. And this triangle actually addresses those 4 main components, and we're going to kind of break down those components. And those blue zones, a lot of them are kind of scattered all around the world. You have one in Japan, you have one in Mexico, but you actually have one in Loma Linda, which is relatively close by. So it's this thing of, it's not this really, really difficult thing to achieve just because it's all around the world. We have a blue zone right near us here in California, you know, not that far away. So how can we kind of implement these in our lives and kind of live these healthier, happier lives, especially when we get older? So I'm going to hand it off to Daisy to speak about the first aspect of these blue zones.
Thank you. Okay, I just want to do a quick volume check. I know there's the air conditioner. I was wondering if you guys can hear me. Just thumbs up if you can. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and first talk about belonging, and this is just kind of taking the first steps to find your sense of support and community. Okay, so at our last session, I kind of provided more of an overview of belonging, but today I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into belonging, specifically in regards to ourselves. I feel like a lot of times when we think about belonging, we think about how we can find support in the community or in others, but I think it's just as important to think about how we can find that sense of belonging and connection within ourselves as well. And I know that concept might seem a little abstract, but I want to break it down a little bit more. So the first step I feel like with belonging in regards to ourselves is this idea of self-acceptance, because as we begin to get comfortable with who we are and begin to learn about how we express ourselves and who we are, for example, our values, our character, our interests, our hobbies, things that make us us, and as we begin to embrace that and just kind of be our most authentic selves, I feel like that is when we most feel secure and are able to build those authentic connections as we meet others that embrace and connect with those parts of ourselves. So on the slide, I kind of have a little cycle or flow chart. I'm sorry about the bottom arrow, but it's supposed to be representative of these 4 aspects of self-acceptance and kind of how they're all interrelated and kind of how they build off of each other. So to start off, the first circle above is the word no. And when I think about no, I think about taking the time to reflect on what makes us us, getting to know ourselves, either pursuing different hobbies or being comfortable with our values, and just kind of meeting people that align with those aspects of ourselves. And the next aspect, as you begin to learn more about yourselves, is to go ahead and figure out how can I best express myself, or in what ways do I find most confidence in expressing myself. And that can be in a variety of ways. Either again, pursuing different hobbies to further embrace and learn about the aspect of yourself. For example, some people might feel that dance is a big part of their personality, so they might pursue that more, and that's how they express themselves. But it doesn't just have to be hobbies. It can also be, for example, fashion, or just other aspects that you feel best reflects your personality or who you are. And that kind of falls into this idea of trust, because as you begin to pursue those communities, you start to meet people who fully accept who you are without having to pretend to be someone you're not. And that sense of trust is a really great foundation in finding a sense of community. And lastly, it's going to relate to love, because as you find acceptance with yourselves and others, it's going to overall help to generate this sense of belonging. And moving on a little bit more, talking a little bit more in depth, this is kind of breaking down to different aspects. So on the first slide, I talked a little bit about how this self-discovery is important for helping us find a greater sense of self and building a sense of belonging. But another aspect of a sense of self is prioritizing your own health and well-being. So for example, for the first aspect, as I mentioned, it's important to find ways to support yourself. And that isn't just in regards to physical health, but also mental health as well. So I kind of maintain some general tips that we've all heard of, but it's just as important. And I feel like we talk a lot about physical health, but it's also important to talk about mental health as well, which is why I mentioned the second component of mindfulness, where it's important to pursue things like yoga or journaling or meditation. And these are all ways to just kind of take things slow, take some time for yourself, and allow yourself the space to reflect on, how am I feeling, or what other ways can I take care of myself, because I know personally, with life, it can get really busy when you have other commitments and you have many roles, not just as a daughter or a sister or a mother. There are a lot of things like that can be hard to balance, but that's why it's important to just take a couple of minutes, maybe twice a week, to just kind of sit down, check in with yourself and see, where am I feeling the disconnect? Am I feeling more tired? Maybe I need to sleep more, or am I just not giving myself the time to process everything that I'm going through? And lastly, we talked about this a little bit earlier regarding self-acceptance, but overall, this is going to help you develop more personal connections with yourselves. And at the same time, as you grow more comfortable with yourself, you're able to build that foundation to build deeper connections with those around you. Okay, and the last aspect, I know this was a lot of lecturing so far, but I kind of want to first provide the overview of what it means to focus on self-acceptance. Then I want to secondly focus on specific aspects like prioritizing mental and physical health. And this is kind of the last slide where I wanted to take things a little bit more slower to give us that time to reflect. So on the slide, I have like a kind of like pie chart of different aspects of what can be a component of someone's identity. Like for example, family, religion, someone's culture, or even their work or education can be a really big part of their identity. And on the left side, or on the right side, I just kind of put some questions that I wanted us to kind of take things slow to reflect on. So looking at this flow chart, I know that for a lot of us, our identity can come from many ways. So I know that you guys have binders in front of you. So if you could, I would really appreciate if you could just kind of, let's take the time now to just reflect on kind of who we are and whether what aspect of identity is strongest for us. So I'll just give you guys a couple of minutes to do that.
Daisy, you mentioned left and right.
I'm sorry, that was a little bit confusing. I guess on my side it looks like it's on the right, but really if I look at the slides on the left. So I was mainly referring to those questions. Those are kind of my probing questions to think about and reflect on what aspect of identity is strongest for you personally, and then which one would you like to expand on? The ones that you don't feel like, when you think of yourself, you don't associate that with your identity as strongly. I guess to give an example, for me personally, I would say what I associate strongest with my identity is family and values. I feel like I'm a very value-oriented person, and a lot of the things I do, I kind of decide whether it aligns with my values, and it's a little bit difficult for me to do things outside of my values. I feel like my values are kind of what help me navigate life very strongly and make decisions. And with family, I kind of group that with family and friends. At home personally, I'm still living at home with my parents and I'm really close to them, and for me, I think making that connection with them beyond just as a daughter and getting to know them as people is really important to me, and not just with my parents but with my grandparents and cousins as well. So that's why I would associate family more strongly with my identity, because I think a lot of my experiences and my values are shaped by them, and at the same time, it's important for me that I have that connection with them as well. I guess one aspect I would like to expand on is, sorry, this is supposed to say experience. I know there's like a pop-up right here. So I have a section for work education and then experiences, because experiences can be like a variety of things, just kind of depending on the individual. So one aspect I would want to elaborate on for me personally as identity, I would say hobbies and interests, because I think that once I started school, or just like working in general, it's pretty hard for me to pursue things. So before I used to paint a lot, and I also used to read a lot. But as I started to get a little bit busier with school, and when I started working, it was pretty hard for me to pursue that hobby and interest, even though that is important to me, because it's a way for me to pursue like my creativity and express myself. So that is one aspect that for me personally I would like to expand on more. Did you want to add on to that by chance?
No. I was thinking that, now that at my stage in life we have grandkids, and there are at least one of them, I find it, for me also family is number one, but I find that it's not that easy to get into the space.
Yeah.
I do not know if anybody has some ideas. Now you're all my, the age of my grandchildren.
Oh.
So what would you, anybody can answer, what are some ways where we can break through?
Can I ask, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, what do you mean more ways to break through?
Say that again?
When you ask what ways we can break through,
Oh, right.
what do you exactly mean by that?
Essentially, we are interested in knowing what they're going to do.
Oh.
But they don't want to talk about it. We want to spend time with them, but they don't have time for us.
Yeah.
These small things. So perhaps it's not the degree to which we want to be involved, at least in some way where we can keep this open so they feel comfortable telling, oh, grandpa, this is what I want to do, or something like that. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me personally, what kind of makes me more comfortable to share is, for me, dinners are like a really really big family time, because I think it's a one time of day where everyone's like in the house at the same time and we're all eating around the same time, which is usually around 6 or 7. And then either before that, my parents or grandparents are busy with like work or going to the doctors. And then afterwards, everyone's like kind of busy and that's their free time. So for me, I think dinners is the first step to getting comfortable and creating that space to get to know each other and spending more like quality time. And then from there, I think dinners are a great way to have like conversation, because I feel like, again, like everyone's there at the same time. Everyone's attention's like on each other. And I think one other thing is finding things that you guys have in common. So for me specifically with my parents really like to try different foods. So I guess again with dinner, but not just home dinners, but for example, my dad, he would always mention like, oh, this new restaurant opened, and then me and my brother would make sure that we free up one day in the week with that time slot to go with him and my mom to eat at the new restaurant. And I think like building those new experiences helps us get to know each other more and break through as family. Like it's not something we have to do, but now like as we're all enjoying this experience, we're starting to see family time as like, oh, it's something I enjoy, like I want to do. So I guess like finding hobbies or new experiences you can share. And a lot of times I feel like asking in a more casual way, like, oh, like, what do you like to eat, or I want to try something new, can help open up that conversation, like, with grandkids, I feel like.
I like your answers and thinking on the feet, very good. How close to you are your grandparents to you? I'm sorry, I'm not making it personal.
Oh, no worries at all. Feel free to ask.
You or Niall, Kendall, Alicia.
Well, I only have one grandparent who's still alive. Unfortunately, two of my grandfathers and my grandmother, they've all passed away. But before that time, while they were still alive, it was a case of, my family's always been very kind of learn from your elders, you know, take that wisdom from the older generation. So they've always advised me to kind of build those strong connections. So even when I was young, like, you do enter that weird phase of life when you're a teenager, you're young, you think you know better. You think, oh, these people have nothing to teach me, but then you kind of experience life, and then you see that all these things that they taught you when you were younger, they do have relevance. They are really, really important. And I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to wait for people to reach that maturity, that they will kind of reach out to their grandparents and kind of build those connections. Because we all go through times of immaturity in life, unfortunately, but kind of waiting till they feel comfortable, kind of having the door open for them. And that's what my grandparents did for me. They left the door open for me always. So when I did go through my immature phase, they were there at the end of it to, you know, welcome me with open arms.
Mm-hmm.
And that made our relationship stronger, because I knew, hey, regardless of how immature I was, they were still there for me. And building those memories based on a genuine desire to, not because I was forced, not because it's something I had to do. So thankfully, because it was very organic, it did allow me to build a really strong relationship with my grandparents.
Thank you.
Something I would love to add is, I totally agree with the, you do have to wait for, you know, like kids to come around type idea. But something when I was extremely busy in college, like my parents are older, so my grandparents aren't living, but something I would do to make time, I had to express to my parents to make time for them was, I don't want to like get on the phone for an hour sometimes, because you can't always make time for that. So I think as like someone trying to reach out to their grandkids or kids, a good thing to do is like express, what if we talk for 15 minutes tonight and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about, and I'm going to give that time to you, but like all I'm asking is you to give me 15 minutes in your schedule. Because 15 minutes is something that most people can fit in. An hour seems more intimidating. Sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know when this conversation's gonna end. We might be talking for an hour and a half, which is great, but I can't even fathom putting that into my schedule right now because I'm busy. So something I would start to express to like people that I wanted to make time for was, can we put a time limit on it, not for the sake of not wanting to interact with you, but this is the way I can meet with you, is if I know I have this time where I can dedicate 15 minutes without looking at my phone, without looking at my other commitments, and I can dedicate 15 minutes to you, but over that right now, I would rather do that, otherwise I might not meet with you at all, and I think 15 minutes is better than not meeting at all. So I think that could be something you could express to your grandkids who might say they don't have time or they don't want to talk about certain things or whatever it might be. You could literally just say, I want 15 minutes to talk to you tonight. You can talk about video games. You can talk about school. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. This is the floor is yours for 15 minutes, and I'm just gonna be here to listen because I want that time. And like Niall said, like sometimes kids and grandkids they don't even want to listen to the fact that you're giving that space. Like they're not there to listen to it yet. They're not there to offer their time yet. But at least it shows how dedicated you are that you even want to give them 15 minutes that day. So that was something for me where I was very busy in college and my parents were divorced, so I had to call them separately. And I was like, I can't talk 1 hour with one parent and another hour with the other parent. That's too much time. Like, I'm going to give you 15 minutes and that's it. So, and it might sound insensitive, but I think that's better to do it that way than not at all. So that's my advice. Sorry, I know your
It's
hands
okay.
raised.
Well, I think the most important thing about your child is community, sense of belonging. I noticed, for example, you arrive together.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to guess, are you family?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have the sense of belonging, community, because we are in a society that's so individualistic. Self-identity, but our sense of self is our sense of being part of a group. People ask me, well, what are you? My grandchildren have trouble about filling up forms. What shall they, or are you Hispanic? Are you Asia Pacific? Are you white? Anyways, you talk about ethnicity. Do you have a sense of belonging in this community? No matter your skin color or background, hey, you come together too. There's your professional education. You belong, and I think that's important, that you have the sense of belonging. Well, Dr. Moses and I, only met how long ago? And suddenly we have a sense that, hey, we identify, hey, we have something in common, we belong. We happen to, well, he happened to invite me to his open door church, and we happen to belong to the same, church, Loma Linda. So anyways, I think the important thing is your sense of self. Is you belong to a group, and you have a sense of community. In a way, here we're trying to develop a sense of community, a blue zone community, where we support each other, because we have the same. You talk about values. We value health, wellness, and I think it's important to have a sense of sports. There are people who. My sport is walking.
It counts.
Well, I walk with some people. I meet them. But anyways, the point is that, hey, you have a sense of belonging, a sense of community with certain people professionally, in terms of your work, in terms of your, ethnicity, culture. Anyways.
Yeah, thank you for
Me
sharing
too.
that. Yeah, I think kind of building off of what you said, thank you for sharing. Your name is
Joselito.
Joselito.
See, I have a Spanish name. Little Jose.
Oh. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said about community. I think kind of what you were talking about, the one theme that I noticed the most with the sense of community is overall just being seen and acknowledged and being able to share and connect with someone about something important to you. I feel like for me it defines what community, and kind of hearing what you said as well. Would anyone else like to share what aspect of identity is strongest for them? You don't have to share too much if you're not comfortable. I know it's a little bit personal, but I would really like to hear kind of what other values y'all have as well.
I think for me, family is most important.
You as well?
Yeah, and I would like to work on my hobbies and interests.
Do you currently have any hobbies or interests right now?
Yeah, I like playing badminton and
Oh.
stamp collection, but you don't find many people playing badminton here. It's mostly
Should come to my place. They're Indonesians who play good
Really?
badminton. Malaysia.
that's
The
nice.
champ- yes. Well, the champ badminton is from India, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the
They
other
beat
one
my
who's
countrymen.
the other team.
Oh, from Denmark
Yes.
too.
Not tennis.
Pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
They play
pickleball.
Alright.
Yeah, and honestly, badminton could be a really, really great family sport as well.
Yeah. I play sometimes with my husband, yeah. I do that.
Oh, that sounds really fun. Any last closing thoughts before I pass it off to our next presenter?
I would like to share really
Yeah.
quick that I think that these values can sometimes change based off of like how you're feeling. Like for experiences, if you're going through grief, that could be your whole identity during that time. So I think that it very much changes based off of like what's going on in your life at the time, and obviously we're gonna have certain values that remain, like family, maybe religion, maybe community, and definitely values, but I think they they flow based off of what's going on presently in your life. So
Yeah, that is a really good point. I didn't think about that. That is true. Any other last closing thoughts?
Great, good discussion, thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
Esperanza, do you have something to add to this?
I didn't understand too much.
Oh.
No understand too much.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
need,
okay.
I wanna know you put me in my telephone what do it now?
Okay. I think what we'll do,
Spanish.
we have all of this in our website. It'll be in our website. We'll ask Blanca to translate it and put it in Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. Okay, now pass it off to Niall.
after this.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to be discussing purpose. And I know that can be a very intimidating question. What is my purpose in life? Why am I here? It's a very, very difficult thing to answer, but when you kind of break it down, it gets a bit simpler. And this is one of the reasons why this is a workshop where we kind of build upon past weeks, kind of making sure it's something that we learn we can build upon and we can learn more. So let's tackle this very, very difficult question of what is purpose, okay? So to kind of generally put what is purpose into a very, very simple statement, it's having something that gives your life meaning. And this is different for every single person. A lot of people, religion gives their life meaning. Some people, it's the other people in their lives doing what they can for them. For some people, it's as simple as, hey, doing this hobby I enjoy. Just to give you guys a few more concrete examples, my grandfather, when he was young, his purpose in life was to work really hard, to provide for his family. He would work multiple jobs. He wasn't making a lot of money, but he knew he had to work really, really hard for his family, right? So that was his purpose in life. Every single day he would get up, regardless of how tired he was, and work for his family. That was his purpose. When he got older, when his family, thankfully, they were off living their own lives, they were comfortable, he became very, very religious. He kind of made religion one of the main aspects of his purpose. So you can kind of see how purpose changes for a lot of people, right? And then my grandmother, her purpose was kind of the same when she was younger, taking care of her family, doing what she could for them. When she got older, she got into cooking. That became one of her purposes in life. And the whole point is, your purpose doesn't have to be something crazy big. It's going to serve the whole world. It's what means something to you. For example, a lot of kids, what's their purpose in life? Go to school, have fun. It's very, very simple. But the whole point is, what does it mean to you? And a big part of these workshops in general is finding what means a lot to you. Finding, your own personal journey as you try and improve yourself, your health, both mentally and physically. And purpose can actually help you in more concrete ways, because I know a lot of the stuff I'm saying, it's just, take my word for it. But there's actually a lot of studies that show how purpose can actually affect you in a positive way. So there's actually research that shows that it can reduce inflammation. And just to kind of give you an idea of inflammation is, you have that swelling up of the body in certain places, you have that redness. It's basically it's your own body's response to kind of trying fighting off, a bad reaction in your body. You're trying to get rid of that bad reaction. But sometimes that bad reaction can kind of go on for too long. So even though you've taken care of the problem, or you're trying to take care of the problem, that constant fighting inside your body it can cause other problems. But research actually shows that having some purpose, it can actually reduce some of that inflammation in your body that you might be experiencing on a long-term basis. And then there's also more research that shows that it can support better immune health, and this can actually help your memory. So a lot of things that people get concerned about, I know from my grandparents and my parents now, is memory. Memory is a big thing that kind of just goes away as you get older for a lot of people, unfortunately. But research actually shows that you can have better memory preservation as you get older. So our memory is going to get worse as we get older. It's just a fact of life. But it may not get worse at the rate that it will unless you have some purpose in life. And then another thing you can have is it helps you deal with stress. As we know, as I'm sure you've all heard at some point or another, stress is the silent killer, right? It can really, really affect your heart. It can affect your body in a lot of different ways. So how do we deal with stress? There's so many ways, but having that purpose in life can actually help you deal with stress. And as we know, if you kind of deal with stress, you tackle that stress, you are lowering your chances of having all these heart-related and other body issues as you get older. And a big thing of stress is that mental aspect, right? Having that purpose, you have a strong mental aspect that's kind of helping your stress, helping get it down, and making sure that your overall health is better. And then another big thing is it can actually help you keep your thinking skills as you, for people who develop Alzheimer's, even though you do have that, kind of mental breakdown. And unfortunately with a lot of this research, there's not a concrete reason as to why these things are happening, so there's a ton of research still going into it, but the fact that you still have all these positive benefits from having a purpose in life shows that, hey, it's not just something to make you feel better, it makes your body feel better, it can make your mind better. And there's so much research going to the brain, and we still don't understand a lot. So if you can have a purpose that kind of makes your brain stronger, especially as you get older, especially as you deal with things, it can mean the world in the long term, especially, So a big question is, how do you discover purpose? As I mentioned before, purpose is something that kind of changes. And during our last session, one of our participants kind of eloquently put this as, you have immediate purpose, and then you have your overall lifelong purpose. So for example, your immediate purpose, what is my immediate purpose today? I have to go take care of some appointments, I have to go, have a meeting. That's my immediate purpose, right? It's something very, very small scale. It's more of an obligation sometimes rather than, a deeper meaning. And then you have a lifelong purpose. What is my purpose in life? Well, we're all trying to become med students, right? That's a very, very long-term goal. And what do we want to do beyond that? We want to try and help people to the best of our ability using medicine, right? By building connections. That's a purpose that kind of goes beyond us. But just because you don't have this crazy big purpose that goes beyond you doesn't mean that you can't have a very strong purpose. If your purpose is to have a hobby, that's a purpose. If your purpose is to, I like to go on walks, I like to garden, those are all purposes. Kind of having those things that wake you up in the morning, because we've all had those mornings. It's really hard to wake up, it's really hard to go and do things. It's just part of life, right? But you have that purpose getting you up. My grandfather, when he was working multiple jobs at a time, I am sure he'd rather stay home and sleep, right? I'm sure we've all had that thing. We want to stay home, we want to sleep. It's really tough to get up in the morning, especially during the winter time. You're really cozy under the covers, but knowing I have a purpose that is going to get me up, it really, really helps, right? And it's a very simple question to ask, but it's not an easy one to answer, right? And this is something that constantly changes. We may have different purposes. We would discover things that were a purpose that weren't originally. So I kind of want to tackle that question, how do we discover our purpose? And this is going to be a long-standing question that we have to answer. It's something that always changes. So I just wanted to start with 2 small steps towards finding a purpose, okay? So reflect on what matters to you. Like I said, we all have different things that are important in our life, right? What matters to you? Not anyone else, not what anyone tells you should matter to you. What really matters to you? And no one has to answer, no one has to raise their hand, but just kind of think for a few seconds, what matters to me in my life right now? What is the thing that I could not live without? What really, really makes me happy? What gives me purpose? What is that thing? Okay. And then the next step, set small, meaningful goals. So in life, we kind of get a bit scared of finding a purpose, right? Because it's this big question, but if we kind of break it down into small things to kind of build towards finding that purpose, we have these really, really big tasks. We take small steps towards that task because we know our ultimate purpose, but we're taking small steps towards that. a big aspect of Dr. Moses' work is first steps, right? Taking that small step. Because it is important, because when you have a big task, you don't want to take that first step because you're so scared of what's going to happen. But if you just take it one by one, it makes it so much easier. And there's one other purpose that I want to talk about, because a lot of people, they unfortunately have really difficult medical conditions they're dealing with, sometimes terminal. I was actually speaking to Dr. Moses about this a little while ago. He's unfortunately had patients who have had terminal diagnoses. And once you think, I'm going to pass away, how can you have purpose? You think, oh, I'm going to pass away. What's the point in having the purpose? But they still did. They had religious purpose, but another big purpose they had was tackling a big task. And the one that Dr. Moses spoke about in particular was actually completing a marathon, taking on a big task. What is my purpose before I pass away? I'm going to complete a marathon. And I'm in my 20s, and doing a marathon seems impossible to me. You know, we have Dr. Moses, we have Kendall, who have both done marathons, right? But for me, it seems like such a crazy task. So if it's difficult for me to even fathom doing a marathon, someone who has a terminal condition and they think, this is my purpose, and they got it done. And it seems like such a difficult thing, but having that driving force behind you, it's not something where you have to push yourself to do, because it's behind you, pushing you towards that goal, having that purpose behind you. And it's a very, very difficult question to answer, and I don't fault any of you if you guys have no concrete answer as to what your purpose is, but just kind of ponder that question just for a few minutes from day to day. What is my purpose in life? When you're doing, you know, your little tasks throughout the day where you're driving, what is my purpose in life? And when we spoke during Daisy's section, we did speak about belonging. People mentioned family, they mentioned community. A lot of people, their purpose is family, and that's really, really powerful, because you're not just living for you, you're living for someone else as well. And even if your purpose is, hey, I like doing my hobbies on a daily basis, that's fantastic, because it is what is your purpose, not anyone else. What is your purpose? So I really hope that you guys can kind of take that thought, and it's a very difficult thing to think about all the time, but just kind of take time here and there. Just kind of think about, what is my purpose? Why am I here? You know? And hopefully, as we kind of go along these sessions, we'll kind of build and kind of have a more concrete answer. What for me is my purpose? So we're actually going to take a little break now before we proceed to our last two sections. So if you guys would like to, you know, grab refreshments, if you'd like to use the bathroom, just kind of take a walk or something, please feel free to now. And we'll return in about 10 minutes, we'd say? Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you had a good break. Again, my name is Alyssa. So I'm going to be talking about the portion of the pyramid titled Eat. And this is the first step to creating nutrient-dense meals. So everything you eat in a day is really beneficial to not only your physical health, but also your mental health. Everything that you put in your body is fuel. So it's really important to have a good understanding of what you're eating so that you can have the best life possible, and you could live your daily life better, and you can be more fueled. So today we're going to be diving into a little bit more deep about nutrients. The last section we talked about carbs, proteins, and fats, but we didn't really dive into exactly what that meant. So today we're going to talk about the 3 macronutrients, which are carbs, proteins, and fats. So all foods that you eat have nutrients that give you energy and help you to stay strong. Any food that you eat has that. It's just the different levels that are in each type of food. So again, the 3 main types of macronutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And they're called macronutrients because you need a lot of them. So just to go into what each of these does. Carbohydrates are the foods and the nutrients that your body uses for quick energy. Protein is what helps build and repair your muscles. And then fats are used for long-lasting energy and helping to absorb vitamins. So in your foods, you might read the nutrition facts sometimes, and it tells you how many carbohydrates, how much protein, and how much fats are in your food. So we'll go into more about how much of those you should be eating. But just know that if you're needing quick energy, like you wake up in the morning and you're going to go on a walk, eating something with a lot of carbohydrates will benefit your body because it'll give you that quick energy. It's also what your brain uses primarily for energy. So if you need a quick boost of brain power, maybe you're doing some work on your computer, eating a food with a larger amount of carbohydrates would be more beneficial to help your brain function. Protein, a lot of people know that after you work out or you go on a walk or something of that nature, you should eat some types of protein, and there are tons of types, we'll go over that, but protein again helps you build and repair muscles. Eating protein is not just important for working out. Protein helps you to maintain fullness, so you're not craving as much food, maybe when you don't need to be snacking. So eating higher levels of protein is very good for your body. And then again, fat. Fat is used for long-lasting energy. So when you eat foods high in fat, I know there may be a lot of stigma around the word fat, but your body actually does need some fat in some foods because it stores away that fat, and when your body does not have energy, it uses that stored fat as energy. So it's actually beneficial in your body at the correct amounts. So to talk about which foods you can eat that give you each type of those macronutrients. So carbohydrates. A lot of you know that carbohydrates are mostly starchy foods. So bread, rice, pasta, fruit, beans. And if you remember, carbohydrates gives you that quick energy. So if you need quick brain power, eating a slice of toast, or if you're about to go on a really long hike or a walk, maybe the night before you eat pasta. I know a lot of people, Kendall and Dr. Moses probably know, they carbo loaded before their marathon, and that helps their body to make a lot of energy. So then the next morning when they went and they ran or they walked, their body had energy for them to move. So the next one, protein. Protein is found in a lot of foods, and nowadays they actually put protein in foods that you may not think are protein foods. So protein, or foods that include more protein, include eggs, chicken, tofu, fish, dairy, any kinds of meat. Red meat and chicken are usually the foods that people probably think of when they think of protein, but there's also a lot of things that you can eat that may not look like a protein food, but it's a quick source of protein, like protein bars. They even have like protein chips and popcorn now. There's a lot of snacks that have added protein, which is really beneficial, again, for keeping you full and giving you that muscle repair and building up muscle. And then the third macronutrient is fats. And again, fats, you may think of that maybe as a word that's not good or like a food that you shouldn't eat, but your body does need fats in moderation, and there are healthy and more non-healthy fats. So some healthy fats that you could eat that would be beneficial for your body include avocados, nuts, olive oil, and butter. So when you're eating those foods in moderation and at the correct amount, and with the other macronutrients, is actually beneficial for your body, gives you the long-lasting energy stores that you need to function. So how much of these macronutrients is just right? Most meals should have a half plate. So if you're looking at a plate, which is your meal, half of the plate should contain carbs, a fourth of it protein, and a fourth of it veggies, with little healthy fat. And we'll go deeper into what that means. I have a picture on the next slide that'll be more beneficial for you to see what your plate should look like. But I just want to emphasize that your needs change depending on your age, your goals, like your fitness goals or your weight loss goals, and then health conditions or medications. So while I'm telling you kind of like the general information about macronutrients, just know that this can be very modified to your lifestyle and your health needs. So again, if you have too little macronutrients, that can lead to you feeling tired, weak, or cranky. And then too much macronutrients, overeating the wrong kinds of things, is when your body does store extra as fat because it doesn't really have a use for it. And that is when you may see weight gain. So again, half plate carbs, fourth plate protein, fourth plate of veggies. And I'll show you a picture on the next slide. So this slide shows a food plate balance. And these are 3 different types of plates, and I'll go over each one. So like I said in the previous slide, each person can have a structured meal plan for them based on their own goals. So some people work out a lot. Some people work out really hard and might do high intensity exercise. Some people work out more in a way that does not put as much strain on their body, like maybe doing yoga. Walking will change what you need to eat. Then there's also people who are working on gaining muscle and they're training very heavy. They need a different diet. And then there's people who are trying to lose weight or lean out, or it's just a day of rest. So I'll go over each of these plates, and just remember, every day your plate could look different. So if you're working out hard one day, you can eat one way, and then the next day maybe you're resting, you can eat another day. And it can always be switched up. So the first picture shows a plate for maintaining your weight, and if you are moderately working out. So that plate contains 50% veggies and fruits, which is your carbohydrates, 25% protein, which is in the picture it shows meats and fish, and then 25% starch. So that is if maybe you're maintaining your workouts or maintaining your body the way it is. The second plate shows if you're gaining muscle or you're training very heavy. Your plate can look more like balanced 1/3 sections.
So when you say starch, wouldn't that be carbs or?
Yeah. So in the previous slide, it did say half plate of carbs, 1/4 protein, and 1/4 veggies.
Yeah.
So in this one, for that specific plate, it has it as 50% veggies and fruits and 25% starch. The veggies also can be, let me see. On this slide, it shows carbohydrates can also be fruits and veggies.
Right.
So on this plate, I think it's just saying that there should be 50% veggies and fruits and 25% starch.
Okay.
But the portion of that is carbs will vary based on what you're eating.
Yeah.
But this is just more of a visual for what the plate could look like.
Okay.
But each of these food groups does have macronutrients from the others. So your carbohydrates may have, or your fats may have protein or things of that nature. So they all kind of combine. But thank you for pointing that out.
No, I was just because I was just a little confused when you said starch. First thing that comes to mind is the carbs.
Yeah.
Right?
That's totally correct. Starches are carbs.
Okay.
So I guess if you were gonna write out on this, the way that it has it written is percents based on the others about plate size. I guess you could write 1/4 starches, 1/2 veggies and fruits, and then 1/4 protein.
Because I'm sure like the carrot and stuff has carbs as well in it. So.
Yeah.
These are carbs.
Yeah. So I guess. It is kind of confusing because on this slide I was talking in fractions and then this one's percents.
Right.
So it might be a little confusing, but the visual is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Kendall, did you have something to say?
Oh no, I was just saying like also different types of carbs. Like I think this is more meaning to be like pasta too, so that's like gonna be a lot different.
Yeah.
You know, so but yeah, you got it.
Yeah. The visual is very good for how you could build the plate. And then if you're looking more for actual percents or fractions of what is in it, you could look at the nutrition facts to make sure that it's evening out.
Okay.
So then the second plate is for gaining muscle or heavy training, and it's split more into thirds. And it has a 1/3 veggie, 1/3 protein, and 1/3 starch. When you're gaining muscle or heavy training, again, you want to make sure that you're eating enough protein to build that muscle and have that repair. And then the third image shows a sample plate for someone who may be trying to lose weight or lean out, or maybe they're on their rest day from their workout. And this plate shows 50% veggies and fruits, 35% protein, and 15% starch. So if you remember, I did say that protein stops you from being as hungry all the time. So if you're increasing your protein intake, it'll stop you from snacking later. So for the losing weight plate, it does have a higher amount of protein than any of the other plates because it is trying to curb your appetite.
Now
So
I
that you're
have
not.
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fruit, you can have fruit more, and so it's veggie or fruit. So if we have more fruit, is that fine? And don't have, or have very less veggie and more fruit?
For this plate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has you eating more veggies and fruits. It does have a lot of nutrients for your body, and it will keep you very
No,
full.
but if we have more fruit
Oh,
and less veggie, is that fine?
Yeah, I think veggies and fruits have a lot of the same benefit, but I think for this specific example, it's for losing weight or leaning out. It's more so about keeping you satisfied. So if you're eating a lot of veggies and fruits, it'll keep you satisfied, and you'll be able to snack on it more throughout the day and during your meals, and it'll make you feel more full. So that's why for
I just like to say, like, for veggies and fruits, it is preferred to eat more vegetables. than
More
fruits.
vegetable.
It is preferred because of the simple sugars in fruits, and you don't want to be having too many cups of fruits either because of the simple sugars. So it is preferred to have veggies over fruits, but
Veggies.
fruits are definitely better to have than ice cream or something. That's the
Right.
sweetness that you
Mhm.
want preferred. So it's
yeah.
it's
So-
something to keep in mind. If you are between them, yes, veggies are preferred, but
Mhm.
it's something better than alternatives.
Yeah, so what Kendall said is totally correct. I think, again, what this visual is showing is that 50% of the plate should be fruits and vegetables. It doesn't mean like you have to eat 50% veggies or 50% fruits. It's just saying your plate should look maybe with 50% vegetables or fruits, and that'll help you to stay full. Does anybody have any questions about this slide before I move on?
Just a little, adding to what you said. There are carbohydrates are simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. And the starch, when we say starch, it refers to complex carbohydrates. And and vegetables usually have more complex carbohydrates. They're not broken down that quickly. Whereas fruits have more disaccharides, monosaccharides. They are broken down quickly, so it can raise the blood sugar very quickly. Then I know both of them have fiber in them, but vegetables have a larger amount of fiber than fruits. So in terms of fiber also, that's more helpful. So both the complex carbohydrate and the fiber decrease the amount of blood sugar that goes up after a meal. So if you're a diabetic, you want to add more complex carbohydrate and more vegetables, and recognizing that fruits are good too. That's why God made them so beautiful, different colors, different aroma, different taste, different texture. So I think both have their benefits, but if you're thinking about diabetes control, then more of the vegetables.
And that's a great point to bring up. In the next sections, maybe we can talk about simple and complex carbohydrates in regards to how they change your blood sugar and how they affect different health conditions. That's a really good point. And again, you have to remember everybody is different, how they live their daily life is different, and their health conditions are different. So all of these different food plate balances can be modified for your lifestyle. So for the last slide, I just wanted to practice making a meal together. And this is a sample scenario just so you can see how this specific patient is eating a meal. So the patient scenario I have is a 45-year-old patient. It's not specified if they're male or female. But the activity that they do in the day is light walking. It's not intense in any way. And their goal is to cut back on sugar and eat healthier for energy. So for their plate, it should look something like a half plate of carbs, like brown rice or quinoa, steamed carrots, and green beans. And then it should have about a fourth plate of protein, like grilled chicken or tofu, or any kind of red meat. Again, red meat is something that some people are more health conscious about because it can affect the way your body functions and different health conditions. And then a fourth plate of vegetables, like a leafy green salad with a slice of lemon or light dressing. And then again, to bring up the fat portion, you can have healthy fats. So like 1 to 2 teaspoons of olive oil in a salad that you're eating, or you could have a few slices of avocado. And then just a point to bring out at the end, which kind of goes back to the fruit discussion.
I would need that page again.
Okay. Is that better? Okay. So at the bottom, sorry, this pop-up does keep popping up, but you can always make a health conscious decision to swap the sugar that you're eating. And this is different for people with different health conditions. So instead of juice or soda, you can always swap it for water or something like unsweetened tea. So if you're having a drink and you're really wanting something other than water, you can, having something like unsweetened tea gives you that flavor without all of that added sugar. And then for dessert, like we were talking about with the fruits, instead of having some kind of sweet treat, you could always swap it for a fruit like apples and berries, because the sugars in these are more healthy or not as bad as the sugars that may be found in some of the desserts that you're having.
Now instead of tofu, can we have lentils?
Yeah, lentils are also a very good option. Lentils, tofu, beans,
Why
chickpeas.
particularly small apple?
Are you asking if it has to be a small apple or if it can be a large apple? No, I think small apple is, I don't know why.
I think it's the idea that it's just portion control.
Portion
yeah, just
control,
portion
okay.
control. Because
Yeah.
if you have a lot of fruit,
Lot of-
like Dr. Moses was saying, it still like can spike your blood sugar if you're consuming a big portion of fruit,
Right,
even
right.
though it's natural and it's better than having actual like sugar.
Mhm.
It's still, your body can interpret it similarly, so it's just portion control, like a small bowl of berries. Because if you have fruit at every meal and a lot of it, and you have diabetes, that could be really bad. That's not good for your blood sugar. But if you have portion control and you're having a small bowl of fruit every day, that's better. Yeah.
And also to bring up again what we were talking about, maybe it says small apple because if you were eating a very large apple, it may change the amount of carbs that you're eating, because then you're eating a larger apple and it has more sugar, more carbs. Yeah. So
Just like the
and then
portion
also-
control.
yeah. Also to bring up the point of modifying it for your life specifically. If you're needing like more protein in the day or anything like that with your small apple, maybe you can have it with some healthy nut butters that brings in healthy fats and protein as well. You can always add things to your fruits like healthy fats, like peanut butter, healthy types of peanut butter. Some are not that healthy. Does anybody have any questions about this sample meal? Again, this is a sample for a fake patient scenario. It can be completely modified to your lifestyle and the health conditions that you have. These are just general rules that could be followed for macronutrients like carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that will allow your body to function properly, give you the energy you need to move throughout the day, and give your brain energy to think and complete any of the tasks that you need during the day.
I think also something for like the juice or soda. I think a lot of Americans drink a lot of sugar, and that's like a big problem. Something like I've done before is if you really want juice or something sugary to drink, you can dilute it. So have like a little bit of juice and a lot of water or sparkling water, and it just can make, you can still get that flavor. Because unsweetened tea is very good, but sometimes you want the sweetness of it, and if you dilute it, you still get a little bit of the flavor as well. So a lot of Americans have a lot of sugary coffees and sodas and juice, and that's just a really easy way to cut sugar is when you take those things away.
So tea is okay. Tea is healthy.
Yeah, unsweetened tea. Yeah.
Most of the additions of sugar come from things that we put in them. A lot of drinks come already with sugar, but when we're adding like sugar to the coffee or creamer and things like that, it's just putting added nutrients or added pieces of sugar and things like that into our food. So maybe we can go into that in the next sessions about how to make simple swaps that would be more healthy for your body. And it's very difficult even to make the smallest amount of change in your diet, but I found that when I do little things like not having dessert every single day or not having juice every day and just having it maybe once a week or something, I feel that my body does feel a lot healthier. So that's definitely something we can go into in the next sessions. Does anybody have any questions or need to see any of the other slides again? Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna move on to our last section, which is move. We're just gonna be talking a little bit about why it's important to move. Everyone knows their doctors tell them to move all the time, exercise. I'm just gonna explain a little bit of how your body reacts when you move and why you might actually feel better. Something I'd like to start with is when I was injured in the past, I had a knee injury, and my physical therapist would say motion equals lotion, and because the more you move, it might hurt in the moment. The more mobility you have, the easier it is long term. And I think that was a really good way to put it, because when you first get up to start to move and you're really stiff, it can be really uncomfortable. You don't always want to go for a walk every day if your knee's hurting, if your hip's hurting, whatever it might be. But the more you move, the easier it gets. And the more stationary you are, sedentary, sitting down a lot, the harder it gets to get moving again. So just something to start off with. Okay, so for starters, movement fuels the brain. So we've heard you're going to feel better physically, mentally, everything. Why is that? Well, when we move, our body diverts all the oxygen and blood flow to certain parts of our body to help us with that movement. And one of those places is the brain. You get more oxygen to your brain, and you get more delivery of nutrients as well. That helps with learning, memory formation. You're going to be able to focus better and be more in tune with your emotions, things like that. Regular activity is associated with less brain atrophy, so the brain over time can shrink, especially with conditions like Alzheimer's. But with regular activity, it's lower risk of cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. So just another reason why movement is important. Not only will it make you feel better, you physically get more blood flow, oxygen and nutrients to your brain, and the more of that you get, like Alyssa was saying, the better fueled you are, the better you're going to feel, the better your brain is going to be. Next, mental and emotional well-being. I think a big thing for me is when I'm stressed, if I'm sitting inside all day, I'm not going to feel as good. You feel less likely to want to stand up and do anything when you're sitting down all day too. It's so much better once you get up, go take your dogs for a walk, just go on a walk for yourself, even just get up to go run an errand. You often feel better just because your body needed to release some of that nervous energy that you're sitting with. So it reduces anxiety and depression. It actually reduces stress hormone levels, cortisol or stress hormone. So that's an actual physiological contributor to why you might feel better. And then, like I mentioned earlier, regular movement improves executive functioning, like decision making and focus, something that a lot of people as they get older are concerned about. So yeah, I think that, like we were kind of talking about with Dr. Moses earlier, one thing to do if you're trying to see your kids or grandkids and you want to have a small thing to do with them, you don't have to go out to eat. Even eating is a really good way to have emotional connection and talk about things. But if you want to do something else, something I used to do with a relative that had a stroke is we would go on a walk every night. And that was something where you have time and space with someone to communicate, but also you're doing something in your schedule that is helpful for their physical and mental rehabilitation too. So I like that. I think a lot of people during COVID started taking walks more, and I'm not sure if everyone continued to do that, but I took the most walks I ever have during COVID, twice or sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and I think that's something that really helps with nervous energy, anxiety, depression, things like that. So something to keep in mind, especially when you're looking for activities with people. It doesn't always have to be spending money either. It can be something as easy as going for a walk. So, and then this is something pretty obvious that we hear about all the time. Movement strengthens the heart and boosts metabolism. So your doctor always tells you you need to eat right and you need to exercise because of strength, because of your heart needs to be healthy, because of all these things. But why does that happen? Well, it actually helps raise the good cholesterol in your body. Like Alyssa was saying, there's good and bad parts of fats and things like that. And there's good cholesterol, HDL is what it's called. And the higher that is, the healthier you are. And it lowers LDL, the bad cholesterol, and triglycerides as well. So that's one thing that exercise does. You can actually see it in your lab results, which is awesome to see. And then it reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes. Lots of drugs that people take for diabetes helps with insulin sensitivity, and that's exactly what exercise can actually do for you as well. It's like not always can you get off of the medications that you're prescribed for diabetes, but this is an example of how your body tries to help insulin sensitivity, help you control your blood sugar, and we just have drugs that mimic how that works, but this is the natural way that your body can improve blood sugar and things like that. And then it also can reduce systemic inflammation. So inflammation is just basically when your body's stressed, and that can lead to things like heart disease, cancer, other chronic conditions. When your body has inflammation, swelling, whatever it might be, that can lead to more issues like heart disease and cancer. And when you have better metabolism, again, things like blood flow, nutrients, better oxygen delivery, things like that, helping your heart and your metabolism, that can reduce systemic, all through your body, inflammation, which helps you reduce the risks of things like heart disease and cancer. And then probably the most obvious is strength overall for movement. So movement helps build strength, bones, and joints. This is the main thing we hear when we're exercising. There's people who are weightlifters, they get really muscular, but even for people who aren't trying to get muscular, they're just trying to maintain their strength to be able to consistently do their activities of daily living as they get older. Is extremely important. So weight bearing and resistance exercise. Last session I went over ways to do that, but even the smallest things count as weight bearing and resistance exercises. If you have a band, like a band that people use for exercise, you can sit on the couch and just pull it apart, and that's just one way to be doing exercise. There's different things like taking stairs instead of the elevator every time, if you feel comfortable doing so. For different things. Sometimes weight bearing can literally just mean your physical weight. It doesn't always mean having extra weight that you're holding. So if you have a knee surgery, or if you haven't done much exercise in a while, sometimes weight bearing is just walking with your own weight without assistance. And so something important is when you park farther away in a parking lot, you can sometimes have the opportunity to walk a longer distance, and that's more movement exercise than just parking as close as you can. Use assisted help and get to your place. It's better for your body if you not push yourself too hard, but push yourself a little bit to be able to make small incremental goals and be weight bearing as long as you can. Because as we've seen in blue zones, where people live up to 100 years old, and it's communities of people living that old, these people often don't use walkers. They can walk around without walkers at 100 years old, and in America, most places in America, that's very rare. So when these people are doing that, it's often because their whole lives they had to walk up a hill to get to their home after going to get groceries that night, or they would be walking upstairs or doing more weight-bearing exercises, and those are just things to keep in mind. Especially for females who are more prone to osteoporosis, this is a really important thing, to just be lifting weights if you can, or at least doing weight-bearing activities for quality of life for sure, and posture purposes. Many people with osteoporosis end up having posture changes, and it's just better to sustain posture and things like that. And then age-related muscle loss, which is natural. People are going to lose muscle as they age, but to maintain as much as you can so that you can be able to do activities of daily living. When I use that term, it's things like being able to do things by yourself, like walk to the bathroom, make your own food, things like that. And then enhances joint lubrication and flexibility. This is kind of what I was saying, the motion equals lotion phrase, where when you don't move your joints as much, even if it hurts to initiate the motion, the more you move, the easier it'll get, the more mobility you have. Joint lubrication, meaning how the stiffness while you move, and then flexibility as well. Flexibility and balance are huge things as people get older that we lose very fast, and that's extremely important for maintaining strength as well. And then it's a huge part of it is reducing the risk of arthritis and injuries. So yeah. And then what I've been talking about this whole time, just to emphasize it, when you have better mobility, balance, strength, you get more independence and quality of life. That's the whole purpose of maintaining activities of daily living, is the phrase that we use. And that can help reduce risk of falls. Falls are often the most debilitating thing for patients. It can often result in patients ending up in assisted living facilities, and it restricts them from doing more things, and it can be very isolating among other things. So if we can reduce falls, that's a very high priority. So the more movement we have, the better strength we have, the more independence we have, better quality of life, and hopefully resist falls, which adds to the quality of life component as well. Encourages social engagement through group activities. We talked a lot about this last time, but like I was saying, going on a walk with someone, doing a water aerobics class with friends, with family, even being able to throw a baseball with your grandkids, whatever it might be, anything like that. Walk your dog's a huge thing. Like if you have a dog, being able to walk your dog, it can sometimes be the highlight of your day. So things like that are really important. And overall, movement can help promote longer and healthier lives, and with greater autonomy and self-confidence. Independence is one of the best things that someone can maintain. That was what makes us feel like strong, and makes us often feel like we have a purpose, and we don't always want to be relying on people. Not that that's a bad thing, but independence is a very important thing to maintain for as long as possible for people, and you just have a better quality of life when you can do more of these things. So we just want to promote as much strengthening as we can, so that you can continue to do your activities of daily living, things like that, so that you can have this independence and quality of life for as long as possible. So does anyone have any questions about exercise, how to implement exercise or movement into your life other than the things I mentioned? Any comments on that? Any comments? Does anyone want to share ways that they exercise or move in their personal lives?
In the blue zone countries where they looked at it, they were not doing anything special. No marathon running or anything like that. They were just being active throughout the day, doing things, gardening, walking. There are many people, they like to park very the closest to the entrance of everywhere. And in the back it will say, I do 26.2, but they go round and round, so park somewhere far and walk. If it's reasonable, take the stairs rather than taking the elevator. Simple things build movement into the lifestyle.
With your point of movement, we just had family members over from India actually. My aunt, she had cataract and the surgery went bad, she was in bed for 3 months, to a point where now she cannot even walk after that, but her husband, who's older than her, he walks from our place to church every day in the morning and back, and she cannot even walk, and she's younger than him. But so that motion part makes sense, because she just in bed or in a chair all day, kind of up and down in the house. So it makes sense that what you're saying, that the more movement, it helps.
And it's hard because sometimes the hardest part is starting the movement, because when you're stiff, especially at joints like your hips and knees, your first initial movement's the most painful, but then you do it 3 times and then you're like, wait, it's feeling a little bit better the more you move. And it doesn't always make sense if you think about it. Oh, if it hurts, it's going to keep hurting. And sometimes it does with arthritis and things like that. So it's important to keep in mind. You don't want to be pushing through the pain necessarily, but certain mobility situations, it's because you're not using it is why it might hurt more. If you're injuring yourself, you don't want to push through the pain, obviously. But if it's something that you think that after a couple steps you might notice, oh, that's not bothering me as much as it did when I first initiated the motion, that could be a situation where I need to just be moving more consistently and it's going to loosen up every time. So things like that. So yeah, that's a really good point.